Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Public Schools of Robeson County February board meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody that's remotely plugged in. Hope that you find this information helpful and uplifting and understand what goes on with the public schools of Robeson County. At this time, we'll take the invocation from Mr. John Simmons.
Good evening, everyone. Before we have a moment of silence for one of our past board members, Mrs. Farrell Kearns, and one of LRMC board member, Ms. Maida Ravens, a moment of silence. Heavenly Father, gracious Lord, it's always good to talk to you. We come to you thanking you for all the blessings you have stored upon us. We thank you for allowing us to come together as a board. We ask that you move ourselves out of the way and fill us with nothing but knowledge that we may be able to move forward for our kids. Take all our personal game out and let it be for our kids, Lord. We thank you for our employees. We ask you to come to bless them for the wonderful job they are doing. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
At this time, we have an adoption of the agenda. As you notice in front of you, we've had a couple of changes to the agenda, and we also need to add under action items, EC contracts. That'll be Robert Locklear will be handling that. That's after Public Schools of Robeson County 2021-22 summer program. Anything else we need to add?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second that motion.
We have a motion to approve by Brenda, second by Henry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Approval of the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Got approval of the open session minutes by Randy Lawson, and second by Brenda Fairley. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. First item under information items is Dr. Robert Locklear, NCASCD Distinguished Educator Award. That's Dr. Freddie Williams. Okay. I didn't know you got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Dr. Locklear, if you'll come, please. We're excited to celebrate Dr. Locklear and NCASCD awarding him the Distinguished Educator Award for outstanding leadership in curriculum and in instruction representing the state of North Carolina. And I think you have your award if you show that. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Locklear. You want to say anything?
Next item on the agenda is the Public Schools Robeson County updates, the Esser and Gear Monitoring Review. I know and the Essa Funding. And that looks like Dr. Williamson. Miss Dr. Carr. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. I would like to provide an update about the Esser and gear monitoring visit, which occurred on January 13th. As you will recall, we used our data to identify the district needs, and these needs to help drive our identified action in each of the Esser and gear grants. A team from across all departments were convened to gather all of the data requested for the monitoring visit. Data and documentation were gathered on the following items: implementation, monitoring, budget and expenditures, and equitable services. The review included the CARES funding, PRC 169, which deals with specialized instructional support personnel, which is our school psychologists that we added additional contracted services with, supplemental instructional services, PRC 170, which is our interventionists, PRC 171, which is Esser 2, which deals with our summer learning, facility repairs, air quality, and stipends. 173, which deals with EC psychologists for mental health support. PRC 174, which deals with our school nutrition retention bonus. PRC 176, which is for our summer bridge. PRC 177, which is a career accelerator program. And then PRC 178, which deals with the assessment that we use for summer learning. And PRC 181, which is Esser 3. Based on the report, the findings aligned with our needs. Any questions?
Questions, referring to page 7. You got your mic on, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. Referring to page 7, the last sentence in the, I guess, the second paragraph under finding, the documentation submitted for element 2 was missing or incomplete. What is the status?
So sure. So as we know with Esser, we had phase-in process with all the different pieces as far as Esser. So for example, if you look at these items such as computer hardware and software in Esser 3, what we're talking about has not been purchased. So these are things that they could not look at yet. Then there's other items that we're having a meeting with the State Department tomorrow that they had the data for that we wanted them to review again, which was for second step in Classworks because that data source was provided. But multitude of these items have not been implemented yet. So therefore, there's no data to support or give them yet until we actually start implementation of those items.
Gotcha. And may I follow up? Yes, sure. Down near the bottom of page 7, it is further recommended that PSU submit a PRC 181 application revision to reflect the cancellation of the bus air purifier activity. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So based on what Dr. Guzman had shared and based on what we found is that the air purifiers for the buses would not be effective and wouldn't be a good use of funds. So what they're asking us to do is, because what we shared is that will not be happening, that we amend our grant to show that change. And that change just happened recently. So we will actually, in the amendment, show that we're removing that piece in the actual application.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. So Bobby's handling. Bobby, what are you handling? What's next?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've got the next 3 under Essa Funding.
Okay.
Chairman Smith, board members, Dr. Williamson, I placed at your packet today everything that I'm going to review with you, and I just want to give you an update on where we are in some of our facility projects that are coming out of Esser funding. So the first one is we have submitted an FRQ for an engineer to help us with our field houses. And we put this in Esser as a means to provide additional physical education classrooms and weight rooms at St. Paul's High and Purnell Sweat. So we do have that RFQ, and our next step is to go ahead and move forward with that. The next piece of information you have at your desk is the Esser playground equipment. And as you're aware, we split this in half. We're going to do 11 schools first, and then we're going to turn around and do it the next 11. So here are the first 11 with the amount per project. And you can see that's a substantial amount of money that we're spending for our playground equipment. Also, the next page in your packet is I identified the color options that principals and schools are allowed to choose from. And so they are in the process now of identifying which color they want for each one of their sites. And so, of course, the next step in that process is going to be to get that materials order, to get with the vendor and go ahead and start the installation process there. The next piece in Esser funding, and we spent another substantial amount of money here, as I've shared with you, our air purifier distribution schedule. And as we shared back in the fall, we knew that this process was not going to be something that happened overnight, just simply because of the manufacturing, delivering, and installation of the air purifiers in our classrooms. So you can see that we have completed all the way through week 9. We have approximately 450 devices or air purifiers we're waiting. Once those come in, then that would put us at 100% of our spaces in the district having a air purifier in it. So once that happens, then we will have this project complete. But just to give you some information, as we walk around the schools, we ask teachers, principals, can they tell a difference with the air purifiers in their buildings? And every response I got is yes, that there is a considerable amount of difference for those air purifiers. We also knew that when we ordered the air purifiers, we were going to have to work with ensuring that we had electrical supply in every facility. I think the biggest issue we're going to have is in our gyms. So we don't want to shut down basketball at this point to make sure that we have the electrical outlets in those gyms. So we are wrapping around with maintenance to ensure we're going to have enough electrical spots for those. And any questions on that portion of the Esser funding?
Anybody, Henry?
Mr. Bobby,
Yes.
for the public's knowledge, I see different money amounts at each school. Could you, I think this is because of different design. It costs more for the design of each particular school. Is that the difference in the cost?
So and I'll use Carroll Middle, for instance. So Carroll Middle is going to cost us approximately $375,000. So with them, they are getting 2 pieces of equipment. So they're going to be separated, one on one side of the campus, one on the other side of the campus, and they're going to get 2 separate sets of swings to accommodate their population. So the difference in price is going to be how many pieces of equipment they're going to get, where it's located, and also the size of the swing. If I'm not mistaken, Carroll Middle is going to get 2 sets of 6 swings, whereas if we look at, I know Fairgrove is going to get 2 sets of 4 swings. And all of this playground equipment does come with padding. We are not doing the mulch or pine bark or ground up tires. All of this will have padding that instead of, so the care will be a lot easier for us.
Mr. Gentry?
What are the plans for the disposal of the old playground equipment at these schools?
So we have a demolition cost in each one of these sites, depending, and I'll use, for example, Fairgrove. Dr. Locklear can help me out, but I believe that equipment was there in the 1950s is what I've heard. So we know all of that's going away. Some of these additional sites, and I'm going to use Union Chapel, for instance, they have several pieces there that we know can be taken away. We do not recycle playground equipment, but we also know that there may be a piece or 2 there that are within the last few years that will be left on site. But no equipment will be pulled up from one school and then turn around and placed at another school.
What about, Mr. Bobby, and I understand what you just said, but what about if some of it is usable? I know you have a contract, but what if, I'm just throwing this out and nobody's even said this to me, but what if some childcare facility or something needed some playground equipment, some of this stuff? I know some of it's very, very old, but some of it might be usable by somebody.
Right. Once that equipment, my understanding from talking with Mr. Ernie and our maintenance guys and Mr. Hugh as well, once we remove that playground equipment, then it loses its functionality. And it becomes a liability issue if we take that playground equipment and place it somewhere else.
I'm not talking about us placing, I'm just talking about somebody else placing. So, I mean, how does it become a liability if you or somebody, if you give it to some, go ahead.
Where there's always that room for error, they could sue if there was something that they didn't know about. I know it would be as is. But two, we also had to go back to the general statute of disposing of equipment or any property. And that's either by public auction, sealed bid. So we can't just give it away. It would have to be stored until we had an auction or could sell it by those means.
Yeah, I was just thinking out off the cuff, so to speak.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brennan?
Mr. Bobby, at one time, the scrap metal could be sold. Can we still use the scrap metal to sell it and keep the cost for the scrap metal?
I would check into that, but that would involve our maintenance department getting involved in that. That's why whenever we bid this out, it was a complete project in the terms of take out old, put in new.
Because I know there are companies out there that's willing to buy it. I've seen it happen in time past. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Gentry?
What warranties, if any, do we have on new equipment?
I would have to get into the specific details, but if I'm not mistaken, there's a document of 25 years for part of the equipment. All of these playground equipment and padding have been certified by DPI facility planning, construction and facility. So we've already got our certificates and everything ready to move forward with this. So everything's already been certified by DPI, and when the next round comes in, we'll have to do the same thing as well.
Dr. Williams?
Bobby, is part of our contract a yearly inspection of the equipment?
Yes.
Any other questions? Henry?
I was just wondering, when you say a contract, is the contractor themselves going to do the installation piece, or is that something that we're going to sub out, or is that something our maintenance will be doing?
No, so this is the contractor who bid this. If I'm not mistaken, the name of the company is Creative Playscapes out of Matthews. And he has worked in our district and installed, I don't want to speak for Miss Jamie, but I want to say almost at least 100% all of her pre-K playgrounds. So he has experience in the district.
Greg?
Mr. Bobby, the sheet here that's dealing with cleaning equipment, is that yours?
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's coming up. Okay, I'll let you do that and then I'll ask if I have one.
Any other questions about the playground equipment? Okay, Bobby.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, board members, just a brief update on the Red Springs High School Athletic Complex. The original timeframe for completion was early to mid-March. Unfortunately, that timeline has been pushed back due to shortage of materials. At this time, we still do not have power to the complex due to waiting on a main panel box, and the contractor is not sure when that panel box will arrive. We're still waiting on water and sewer to be connected to the site, and that's due to waiting on the town of Red Springs. All the exterior painting has been complete. The interior paint and fixtures should be complete by next week. All the field lights from Musco have been installed. They were installed last week, and they look great. The backstop poles are up, and we're just waiting for the nets to come in. Those have been ordered also. The clay for the infields have been delivered. It's been graded. Sod for the infields and the outfields, it'll be delivered next week, and it'll be installed next week, pending the weather. Hopefully we'll have good enough weather to get that done. They started framing the sidewalk along the outside of the track. The fence company came out today. They'll get started this week with putting the fence up. The company that's doing the well drilling for the sprinkler systems, they showed up today. They got started. So we're moving right along, but we still have a lot left to do. The bleachers are scheduled for delivery in April. And again, that's if everything works out. The dugout benches and everything have been ordered. The PA system has been ordered. So it's great just to see everything out there start to come together. But again, we still have a little ways to go, but it won't be as long as it has been. The first day of practice is scheduled for actually next week, Valentine's, February the 14th. First game is scheduled for February 28th. The last game is scheduled for the first week in May. So if this project is pushed back to April, which means probably getting pushed back into May, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a highly possible that we will not play any games there this year. But at least we will have everything there and ready to go. And I had a gentleman say the other day that if we don't get to play any games there this year, at least everything will be complete and everything will be sitting there and it'll have time to mature, is the word he used. So again, everything's coming along, but we're just having a time getting materials now. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to ride by there, you really need to ride by there. It's looking really good. Sure is.
Yeah, I'm excited myself. Just if you ride by, you can appreciate. It's interesting to see when they start digging trenches and laying pipes, and when you start and cutting those trees down and where we're at, it's starting to look like a ballpark now. I mean, it's going to be a first-class facility based on what I've been told, and we've talked about it for years. I'm glad to see that it's coming to an end.
Jerome, then where would Red Spring teams play?
Currently, they'll be back at the old ballpark at Tom Cope, and we actually partnered with our county parks and rec. We've been partnered with them for years because they use our facilities, so in turn, they help us out. So they came out last week to Tom Cope with their equipment and worked on that field some, and they actually got it in pretty good shape for them to start practicing and playing on.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Next item, transportation information and management. Tim?
Chairman Smith, Dr. Williamson, members of the board, thank you. Coming with an update for what's going on with transportation. And first, in order to increase our efficiency of our routing, as well as to increase the timeliness of those routes being disseminated, we have been working with a consultant in order to increase the efficiency of TIMS and working on increasing the efficiency of the availability of those routes to be disseminated quickly. Currently, we have increased our efficiency, and we're continuing to do so as we continue to build for not only the summer programs, but as also for the fall. We have instituted a new Google form that will actually increase also our accountability, as well as increase the communication to the school sites so that all parties involved will be able to gather the information in a more timely and efficient manner so that that can be disseminated quickly to parents in regards to those bus routes. In regards to the next line item, activity buses, I spoke with our vendor for those activity buses. We are projected to have those activity buses delivered on April 11th, 2022. So barring any COVID issues and our supply chain issues, we are looking at having those at the beginning part of April. Just to let you know, though, once we do receive those, it'll take us about 30 days to go ahead to clear through a DMV to be able to get some tags for those vehicles in order for them to be able to be utilized during that time frame, which will be greatly increase our availability to provide students with after-school activities, as well as extracurricular, as well as the program needs for our summer programs, as well as the other programs that are aligned with PSRC.
Craig?
Dr. Guzman, how many activity buses do we have coming?
We have 15. We have 12 regular, 72 passenger, and 3 that will be wheelchair lift accessible. And those wheelchair lifts, if I remember correctly, will be able to handle 4 wheelchairs at a time.
And a follow-up to that, if I may, we have a plan in place as far as, are we going to be moving those into schools and then
Correct.
moving other buses down? That I know and when I say down, one time we looked at putting the new buses, if it was high schools, going down to middle schools, going down to elementary, just what's the plan as far as using
As
these
of
new
right
buses?
now, those are for program services, and so they will be housed at transportation for the programs and for after-school use.
Any other questions? Dr. Williams?
Dr. Guzman and then Ms. Freeman and Dr. Carr, we're in the process of looking at radios on every bus
Yes, sir.
and cameras, tune of about 1.6 million. Our intent is, Ms. Freeman, if we can write that in there, so can you update us on that, please?
Yes, our intent is to write that into the Esser grant because these activity buses are funded through Esser. And that would be part of the rationale and the process for why we actually have them for program services. And at this time, we are actually working with the Department of Public Instruction to make sure that we get those radios provided through Esser, and that will come through an amendment.
Eric?
Dr. Guzman, do you mind reminding us what the capabilities of that TIM systems are?
That TIM systems allows us to route students. So provided that we have the students' addresses, we are able to go ahead and to make our bus routes. It's different than in the public sector that FAST or SEATS and other municipalities use. Ours actually goes stop by stop instead of congregating and pulling in. We're actually able to manipulate that data and actually being able to move stops and then place them where we need to. We just have more capabilities than what the average municipality would be able to do for those stops.
It doesn't include any sort of functionality that would allow communication?
Actually, no, sir. The communication of what you might be talking about is through Synovia or Here Comes the Bus or other avenues that we have. We do have that capability through CalAmp, which is our Synovia, which is our GPS unit. So as we roll out in phases to include time and attendance and other things within the services in which we're under contract for, that capability is there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Anything else, Dr. Goodman?
No, sir.
Thank you. Good job. Bobby, let me say this before you start. I noticed Dwayne Smith is not here. I have not heard from Dwayne. Anybody heard from Dwayne? I know he's not. I just want to make recognition that he is not here. Also, Dr. Emmanuel is not here, but she is on the web link. She can speak and talk if she needs to, if she needs to vote. So I just want to publicly make that statement. Dr. Emmanuel's daughter had some type of surgery or something, so that's the reason she's not here. I'm not sure about Dwayne yet. I haven't heard. He hasn't called or texted. At this time, we're at the Rosenwald gym floor.
Yes, sir. Chairman Smith, board members, Dr. Williamson, just to give you an update, we are in the process, or the company is in the process of completing the Rosenwald gym floor. That should be done by Friday or Saturday. The principal was so excited this morning. He sent myself and Dr. Williamson an email probably shortly after 6 and apologized for sending it so early, but he showed us a video of the floor. So they should wrap that up. Kids should be able to get on the floor based on the information I got today, Monday or Tuesday. Fortunate, this is one of those projects that kind of slipped through the cracks some years back, but the contractor did honor the price that they quoted us a long time ago. So this is going to be a plus for the Rosenwald kids and community down there. So the next three are all mine: summer cleaning, purchases of cleaning for buildings, and bidding of grass companies. So all of these are tied together. So as I walk through all of these, you're going to see how they connect. So also in your packet, I gave you, again, this is going to be funded through the CARES Act, some leftover money that we have. We have been working with a vendor to supply brand new cleaning equipment for all of our schools. And what you see here are just samples of what we have been communicating with the vendor on and what we need for our buildings. Instead of piecemealing some of the equipment, buying 5 or 6 a year and hoping that it holds together until we can get money to get new equipment, we're going to go in and buy equipment for every school. So every school in the district will get at least one set of equipment. Depending upon the size of the school, they could get multiple sets of the equipment in order to help us facilitate our plan in the summer. The only thing that is not pictured here is we're also in conversation with the vendor on getting a battery-powered scrubber. Again, all of this is to improve the cleanliness of our schools. The vendor is also willing to come in and do PD with our staff on the effective use and operation of all of this equipment not just buy the equipment, drop it in the school, and then leave. That leads us to summer cleaning of our buildings. We know that in the summertime, one of the biggest tasks that our custodian has in front of them is cleaning the classrooms, getting those floors stripped and waxed. So we have started the conversation with maintenance that we are going to employ teams for the summer. So we're going to take custodians from schools. They will have a designated amount of time to clean school A. That same team will then move from school A to school B to get that next school up and running, so custodians are not spending the entire summer cleaning a building. So we're also asking our vendor to provide us with dollies to improve moving that furniture out of the classroom and moving it back into the classroom. So once we get those teams designated, we'll be sure to get back with you and share that with you. Our maintenance staff will be responsible for supervising the cleaning as it takes place at the school level, but there will also be maintenance staff that is going to move equipment and have it staged at the next school. So as the team is finishing up A, when they walk into B, they're ready to go. So we believe that this is going to make our schools look a lot better when teachers and kids come back in August. We're also meeting tomorrow to begin the conversation of where our summer school sites are going to be, because we know that's going to be important as well. So there are a lot of moving pieces that are going to have to take place in order for us to get our buildings where they need to be at come August. The big piece in all of this is, if you walk some of our campuses, some of our campuses are enormous. And if our custodians, some of them could spend 2 days alone just getting the grass cut in the months of June, July, and August. So we divided the county up into 3 different areas, and you've got this sheet in your packet as well. And we called them Group A, B, and C. So we put this out for bid. We put it in the Robertsonian, we put it on the website, and we asked companies to bid on cutting the grass, providing lawn service for us. So within that service, it's going to be grass cutting, hedges, pruning, everything it takes to keep that yard up and looking professional throughout the grass cutting season. In terms of athletic fields, we know the pride and joy at some of our high schools are those athletic fields. And we know that the coaches / athletic directors are responsible for keeping those up. So at the high schools, these 2 companies would not be responsible for cutting the athletic fields at high schools, but they would be responsible at the middle schools. Our intent here again is to not have any of our custodians on the outside trying to maintain the yard, knowing that the building should be the priority during July and August. So if you look at your sheet here, I've already met with our PSRC grounds crew, and the schools here, those are the schools that they would be responsible for. And we tried to group these schools in terms so that no one's traveling a large geographical area to cover. Project B, you can see all of those schools there with the projected cost of cutting. And we are looking at 23 cuts. And so, of course, in March, we're not going to cut every week. March would be 1 cut, April would be 2. And when we get to June, July, and August, that would be weekly. And then we will begin to decrease back until October. So you can see that group of schools there would cost us running 23 cuts, approximately $240,000. Project C, again, following that same timeline, Project C and that group of schools would cost us approximately $174,000. Both of these particular vendors, I've spoken with them. They have walked the properties. They've given me a list of their equipment and references, and we have checked those, and I've got outstanding recommendations from both of these companies.
Anybody have, Henry?
Mr. Bobby, I want to say that I think this is a great idea. It's going to put our custodians back in the school where they're really needed. with the enhanced education piece, the curriculum piece of it. And that way they're not going to be worried about what's going on outside. Also, I'd like to make mention, this is going to reduce our cost on purchasing lawnmowers, repairs, and all of that. So we're probably ahead of the game going this route. I think this is going to make our school system look more professional, and we're taking the right approach. Thank you.
Let me ask you this, Bobby. So Project A is our employees.
Yes, sir.
So they're covered under our insurance.
Yes, sir.
These other two companies, whoever they employ, I mean, did they have to have, they provided their own liability insurance or whatever?
Yes, yes. Part of the scope of work that we placed out there was that these companies would have to have proof of liability insurance, workman's comp. We covered all of those boxes when we put this work out there.
Can you tell me who, I see the names of these companies. Who are these individuals?
Okay, the first one, Davis Lawn Care, is a gentleman, Richard Davis, and he is the gentleman that cut with us last year. He cut a few of our yards last year. The next one is S&S Brothers Lawn Care. They are out of Pembroke, if I'm not mistaken, and they have also provided, both of these companies have provided us with references.
Got a question. Mr. Bobby, how long is this contract? Is this year to year or?
The way we wrote the request, Mr. Leach, was for 1 year with the option to go back at the end of the contract and say, well, let's just go ahead and renew it for next year and get it started. But have we signed any contracts? No, we have not. There's just an understanding that the possibility for them to work next year is there.
So will it be bidded out again, or will it be?
That would be something we would come back and discuss.
All right.
The contract that we're going to ask for approval later is just for this school year only.
If we bid it out again, Bobby and Vontae, whatever, right now you said these people are going to be paid out of some of that CARES Act fund?
No, sir.
I thought
The
you said-
equipment that we're buying to improve the summer cleaning is going to come out of CARES
Okay.
Act.
All right. You got another question? John?
Why come A wasn't bidded out?
All three were bid out. We just did not get substantial enough bids. We only got bids from 4 companies, and actually one of those came in after the deadline, and there was only one bid for the A group. So when we talked, we said, okay, we can utilize our grounds crew to do A, and then also go back and split the other two between the other two individuals that bid.
Henry?
Mr. Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I see in the bottom of the sheet, it says total cost from March to October. So we're calling that a season.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And what we are doing for our grounds crew, we did purchase 4 new mowers this year that were distributed to schools. We are now going to go back to those 4 schools and take those mowers back, and they will become the property of our grounds crew, so that our grounds crew has the newest and best equipment that is out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Bobby, is there any stipulations on using like Roundup and those sorts of things? And also, are they going to be responsible for keeping up like hedges that's around the schools and flower
Yes.
beds or anything else?
Yes, they're doing everything. And so, yes, there is a stipulation that we put in the scope of work that if they are going to use any weed killer, it has to be approved for us prior to.
Vontae? Brandon?
Mr. Attorney, have we covered all our grounds concerning those two crews?
Sounds like it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Bob.
So,
And-
Mr. Chair, it's our intent tonight, because they are contract, to ask you to waive policy, and we move that to an action item. And then to Mr. Brewer's point, we're spending yearly somewhere between $230,000 to $250,000 in equipment and repair, just the equipment and repair. So you're absolutely right. We're basically awash with that, but the impact will show up in our buildings.
Craig?
Mr. Bobby, just real quick on those buffers, those are the propane type buffers?
No,
or
no, sir.
electric, what are they?
Electric.
They're electric. We get you.
Electric,
Okay.
yes. And again, the vendor that we've kind of had conversations with at this point specializes in working with schools and universities.
Chairman, I
Mr.
make a
Gentry,
motion that we-
Mr. Gentry.
The custodians, I would dare say all of them take great pride in the condition of the floor and that they are properly maintained. And the buffing, of course, is what brings out the shine. And some schools have more traffic in certain places than others. And I know you spoke to the moving of equipment from school to school. And I don't know if that, what I'm bringing up can be addressed, but the variables, I guess, is the correct way to phrase it. Is there any way to work that factor into what's happening with it?
So the only time the equipment will be moved is when the teams are actually going out doing their cleaning. So say for instance, if Lumberton High gets 2 sets of equipment, when the cleaning is done, those 2 sets of equipment are going to be returned back to Lumberton High. So we're not going to have at any point in time where a school is without any equipment at all throughout the school year. So the equipment is only moved in the process of cleaning, getting the schools cleaned.
Any other comments or questions? I do. Mr. Dr. Williams.
Bobby, you and I looked at that checklist for what we expect. Do you have that or it's not ready yet?
I did not bring it with me, but I can address that, Dr. Williamson. One of the conversations Dr. Williamson and I have had throughout the year is looking at the cleanliness of our buildings and the expectations of our custodians. So as great educators always do, we stole something from somebody. So we have found a custodial audit that is extremely thorough, that goes through the appearance of the grounds, hallways, entrances, media centers, classrooms. And we are going to implement that with our schools between now, definitely walk through our schools at least twice before the school year ends. And it is a checklist and we're able to make comments and leave that with the principal for the principal to address any non-compliance issues with their custodians.
That's encouraging.
And I'll be glad after this is over to email that form to everybody.
Looks like a lot of thought process has gone into all this implications of what we're going to do as far as the custodian staff and stuff. And everything should make the system run smoother and less cost efficient.
And now, and we understand that there are going to be some hiccups this first year. So we don't expect it to be seamless or perfect, but we're going to work through that because we believe this is the best way to use our manpower in the summer.
And just for the record, I just wanted to point out that Dwayne Smith is here for the public. No, he's here. Brendan?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we move the proposed lawn care contract to an action item.
We have a motion and a second to set aside policy.
I'm sorry, yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the lawn care contract services.
Second. Have a motion by Brendan, a second by who? Henry. Any further discussion about the lawn care service? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Is that all you needed, Bobby? Is that all the action you needed? Yeah, that's all. Okay. Next item is the MTSS.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. I'm going to bring you some updates about MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. Just basically give you an update. We have done some training with staff members in the fall. Right now, majority of our work is involving big collaboration with curriculum instruction with Dr. Roberts' department. And we're working specifically on pacing guides, lesson planning, and lesson design with that work. I foresee probably within the next few weeks, we're rolling some training out with the hopes that our principals, our MTSS coordinators, there's two teachers selected per school site, as well as academic coaches. We'll be doing some training via Canvas and some book studies. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Henry?
I'd like to make a comment. It's been brought to my attention by some of our teachers that they are feeling overwhelmed, that we have picked up new ideas and new ways of doing things that require additional forms to be completed. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, to be conscious of that. And I realize if it's a state demand, we've got to do it. But, we still need to let them know we're going to work with them any way we can to not add additional responsibilities that's going to overburden them.
Any other comments or questions? Follow up, Dr. Williams.
So, Dr. Bullitt, MTSS is really going to help us with placement of students into EC. We'll go through that process, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So MTSS is not the pathway to EC. So we're trying to change that mindset in the district. So really and truly, MTSS, because it encompasses every child, it's really and truly about tailoring our core instruction to best meet the majority of the students in our district. So that's why the large collaboration right now with Dr. Robert and CNI, because really and truly we're focusing on the core, which should be sufficient for 80% of our students, so that we have less time that we have to spend in terms of intervention. So prevention is better than intervention. So, and there are some forms and things that are required in terms of some state action and things like that, but we're really trying to make those processes more efficient for our teachers, because we do understand that there's a lot going on right now.
Any other comments or questions? Next item is Classworks. Who's handling that? Dr. Carr? Okay. Y'all get me confused now with all this training and moving around.
Once again, good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williams, and board members. I'd like to provide you an update on our Classworks program. So recently we finished our universal screener for the winter, and so I wanted to share some progress we've made between fall and winter. So for our ELA or reading, we showed a decrease of students needing urgent intervention from 20% to 15%, and an increase at students that are at or above grade level from 45% to 49%. In math, we showed a decrease of needing urgent intervention from 25% to 16%, and an increase of at or above grade level from 37% to 49%. So what we also did recently is we sent out a survey to all teachers, principals, academic coaches, to look more at tailoring those professional development needs for the district. And so what has been decided based on the feedback they provided, we're providing each school 6 hours of professional development that they can tailor to their school. So Classworks will work directly with each school, providing what they need based on what their needs are as we go. In addition, it came out that we want to provide some additionally targeted group professional development for building leaders, academic coaches, our EC and EL teachers, the MTSS coordinators, central office staff, certain grade level PLCs, and teacher assistants. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Gentry?
I
We're working
remember
through
one
it.
These increases came during a very difficult transitory time when we were just trying to do all we could do to cover all the bases with all the students. And here we've got increases, and I think that's commendable, very commendable.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Manuel.
Dr. Emmanuel, got the floor. Dr. Emmanuel?
Dr. Emmanuel, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have a comment, and it's following a comment I had at the last board meeting. You were talking about training. I'm making a plea with you to please do some training on how to teach reading, how to teach teachers to teach reading. I know that what you just mentioned, the leadership model and the progress you've made is absolutely wonderful. But you really need to, if you would think about that, because you have new teachers and you have some older teachers that really still have issues with how to teach children to read, just a basic course on the teaching of reading. If you would consider that, that would be a blessing to many teachers.
And Dr. Manuel, we have definitely looked at training for reading. Part of that training will also be letters, which I don't know if Dr. Robert's speaking about today, but letters training will be coming for every pre-K 5th grade teacher specifically targeted reading. But I know that as a district, we've had many discussions about what additional reading professional development we can provide our teachers.
It's the foundations, how to teach the teaching of reading to children that can't read or have trouble reading. You know, that's just a basic foundational reading course is what I think would be very helpful to many teachers, especially lateral entry teachers that do not have any basics in the teaching of reading.
And we agree, Dr. Manuel. I know also that CNI is still finishing up Keys to Beginning Readers, which is another training that's being provided as we work through that process.
All right,
We're
appreciate
definitely
it.
taking all that into consideration. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Manuel.
You're welcome.
Craig's got the floor.
Dr. Carr, I think you said something about some reading with, is it pre-K through 5th grade? Possibly. What
That's
teachers?
professional development that's
Profession-
coming through the state
Okay.
that Dr.
Is-
Robert can probably speak a little bit more
Is
about.
that going to be dealing with working with phonics? Just out of curiosity, I'd heard some stuff coming down through the state with dealing with teaching reading to start back to what I'm going to say most of us learned was phonics instead of this whole word.
Yes, sir.
So is
Back
that
to
dealing with the
basics,
phonics?
Like Dr. Manning said, the foundational skills.
Okay.
Yes, and that will start in July.
In July?
Yes, and that's for all pre-K through 5th grade teachers, all reading teachers.
Any other questions or comments? Dr. Williams?
And Dr. Roberts, and that is mandated by the state.
Yes, sir, that is correct. That is mandated by the state, and we are in cohort 3, so we're the last group to go through the training with this new initiative.
Terry's got the floor.
I'm not sure who this question is for. I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe Dr. Robert or the superintendent can assist. I'm going to go back to what Henry said just a minute ago, and I'm wondering, is there a district-wide master calendar for training? And more specifically, I think it would be helpful for us to see when trainings are offered, maybe what audience it's for, dates, times, that sort of thing, and who's, if it's state mandated or something that we're doing locally, and maybe like who's presenting. I think in my mind, that would give us a better idea in terms of what's going on district-wide for professional development. And I know that there's probably some things that's offered locally, maybe just through the school, but I would just be interested. I would be interested in seeing a district-wide master calendar associated with all trainings, if possible.
You got that right, Dr. Carr?
What to answer Mr. Locklear's question, yes, on our public schools of Robeson County website, under staff development / professional development, you will find our district-wide calendar for all of our training, and that started from August of 2021, and it goes all the way until June of 2022. So all those trainings have been set for a number of months, almost a year, because we have a committee that puts all that together. So anytime you want to see the training, it's readily available. Now, schools do have their own schedule if they're adding like on a professional development day, but we still add that to our calendar as well. So any type of training, it is broadcast, whether it's state, local, regional. Ms. Meyer and her team, they put that on our district-wide calendar. But Mr. Locklear, you can't find that on our district website.
And it includes whether or not it's required, exactly what audience it's for and that sort of information?
Yes, sir. It identifies who should attend the training. Yes, sir.
Mr. Gentry?
I keep bringing this up, but is there emphasis on penmanship? I look at my
Penmanship.
grandchildren, they can't read my writing and I can't read their writing.
Mr. Gentry, I guess I could answer that. We really try our best, but if you go and walk through the classrooms, that is a struggle not only in kindergarten, but in 12th grade. Because
I
our
know.
students are so used to texting, they know how to work their thumbs, but they don't know how to hold a pencil correctly.
Amen.
And it's a struggle.
Amen.
We sit every day in the classrooms.
Henry's got the floor.
I'd like to make mention too as to why some of us got an opportunity to speak with the state superintendent this past week, and the purpose of going to phonics versus what we're doing now is the fact that she said you could hold a sign up of a dog and have dog written under it. And if she walked into a class and asked how many knows what this is, that Johnny would raise his hand and say, it's a puppy. And it plainly states it's a dog. So phonics is going to help resolve those type of issues. So that gave me clarification on why we're going this direction versus what we've been doing in the past. I just wanted to make mention of that so the audience could.
Dr. Williamson got the floor.
Yes, and back to Mr. Gentry's question, Robert, our language arts pacing guide group is meeting, and included in that is writing. And so to answer your question, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Wade. Yes, we do have a component, the writing component is in there. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Carr. Next item is Classworks. Was that included in there? Are we doing pre-kindergarten restoration and training?
So good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and members of the board. I just want to give a few updates on Title I Pre-K, specifically on registration and screening. We are currently accepting applications for the upcoming academic year. The deadline to apply is April 1st. I have tentatively scheduled screening for May 3rd through the 6th. However, it is contingent upon the number of applications that we can receive. My goal is to conduct the screening in May rather than August as we have in the past. Prior to the pandemic, we always had the Title I Pre-K screening in May. And honestly, it just works a lot better. And I say that because teachers have their rosters in June, but more importantly, parents are notified in June. I think that delaying the screening as we've had to because of the pandemic makes it difficult for parents because they have to wait until the end of August before they know if their child is going to be in Title I Pre-K or not. But unfortunately, the application numbers in the past have forced us to have to push it out until August to give us time to secure more applications. Getting applications in by the deadline will require community effort. Pre-K staff are actively recruiting. I've reached out to principals, also implemented various strategies to help promote registration. It's been posted on the PSRC Facebook page. Dr. Burnett has added it to the PSRC website as a banner on the main page. I have placed an ad in the Robisonian on their webpage. Also purchased yard signs that's going to be placed at elementary schools. I have reached out to various community agencies and garnered their support as well. Some of those include Robeson County Housing Authority, Lumberton Housing Authority, Pembroke Housing Authority, DSS, CDSA, which is our local Children's Developmental Services Agency, Speech Solutions, and Speech in Progress. So with that being said, I would love to get your support in spreading the word so that we can have an abundance of applications pouring in the next couple of months so that we can make this event happen in May. I've said before that transformation for our district begins with pre-K. And research does show that disadvantaged children can start kindergarten as much as 18 months behind their peers. So pre-K can help narrow that gap. So we're going to continue to work diligently to reach all age-eligible children in the county. So thank you for all that you do and for your continued support of early education.
Pretty much know everybody in here, but I don't know. Please, whoever comes to the podium, please identify yourself so the public will know who's speaking.
I'm sorry. So I'm Jamie Flanagan. I'm the Title I Pre-K supervisor for the district.
Thank you. Any questions now? Terry?
I just have a quick comment. Thank you, Miss Jamie, for moving that date up. I know a lot of parents and teachers are going to be appreciative. So that's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Brenda?
Ms. Flanagan, I'm trying to see, is it going to be on every school site also? Because I haven't seen it on some of the school sites.
Yes, so that I have reached out to principals and asked them to share it on their sites, share it via their parent nights, any platforms that they're using, Drill Share, Remind, anything that they're using to communicate with parents. I have asked them to do that.
Mr. Paul.
Go ahead.
Also, do you have any signs left that I could put at the Maxton Housing Authority?
Absolutely. And I have flyers available too.
I'll put it there for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Trey, Jennifer, you had your?
Yes,
Yes.
I also wanted to share that we are in direct collaboration with Dr. Locklear's department because we are looking at this as pre-K. And we want all of our students to be able to have that opportunity of pre-K. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we have a meeting with Dr. Locklear's department so that we can actually continue to expand how we can get the word out there. Because we want to make this an opportunity for all of our students to join the public schools of Robeson County. So this is just the beginning stages of how we're actually going to get the word out. And so our meeting will begin tomorrow. I think we have a meeting tomorrow at 10. So you'll hear more about that in terms of how we're going to expand that information out to our community.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Ms. Flanagan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are you, who's handling the family engagement?
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, and board members. My name is Jadelle Hawks, Director of Student Support Services. I wanted to talk to you about kindergarten registration. This year it will be in person. We have it to be open April 1 to May 13th. We have a flyer and information is going to be shared with the schools this week. Let them know that they're going to be collaborating with the school nurses, the counselors, and all staff to make sure that it's on site, spread out, and with also the COVID protocols in place. The reason why being on site is because it gives parents the opportunity to make sure and clarify things that are needed so they can walk through a table and make sure that they have their health assessment done. They have their information that they live in that district completed. So when they leave, there's a clear communication line of what's necessary and what's still needed for that kindergarten registration process. With high school registration, that book and the guide will be finished and completed tomorrow and sent to the print shop, so it will be disseminated out to the high schools. It'll start with the 9th graders, the 10th graders, 11th and 12th, and the 8th graders, I'm sorry, not the 12th graders. But the books will be on site at the schools, and then it will also be emailed to the students as well, so they'll have a copy as a reference. I'm going to talk to you also while I'm up here about the COVID vaccines and immunizations. So we have partnered with Robeson Healthcare and the mobile unit. They will begin with immunizations for our 12th graders for the meningococcal vaccine or immunization starting February the 21st through the 28th at selected high schools that had the higher rates. The information will be disseminated out to those schools. Principals are already aware that they will be on site. That'll be at no cost to those students and those 12th graders. Then from there, we'll start with the middle school, and that'll be March 7th through the 11th, where the Robeson Healthcare mobile unit will be on site at those schools to be able to deliver that immunization that's needed for those 7th graders. It's a strategic approach to make sure that we're focusing on the high needs of our students and the way, and making sure the deficit where the immunizations that we have to deliver are being met. For the COVID vaccine, we're in the beginning stages of talking with Robinson Health Department, and that it's the Alliance for the Healthier Generations, which is out of, the lady is out of Raleigh, partnering with them about delivering the COVID vaccines. It'll be where they come on site at schools or during events, and that they will also provide funding for age 5 through 18 will get a $25 gift card. From 18 and older, will get a $100 gift card if they sign up in advance, get the information, say they're at a basketball game, and they decide to get their COVID vaccine there. So we're at the very beginning stages with that as well. Any questions?
Anybody, Henry?
Ms. Hawks, the schedule that you mentioned, are we gonna put that on our website for everybody to be able to pull up and?
Yes, sir, we
See.
are. We're waiting. It was supposed to be today, but because of an accident that occurred with the lady that was to get me the information with Robinson Healthcare, she said she will have the information to me by tomorrow afternoon. We were hoping to get it to the school nurses and out to the schools so they could advertise it well in advance at the 3 high schools. And then from there, we'll talk about the middle schools. They wanted to make sure that we had the numbers. They had to have over 15 at the site in order to do the immunizations. And so we picked the schools that had the higher number, and then from there, we'll talk about the 7th graders because of making sure that they had the supply of the vaccines as well when they go out, that they're going to be able to deliver them.
Newspaper would be a good source too.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Williams has got the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ms. Chair, I wanted to ask, before we talk about the family engagement survey, you read the article in the paper about shining stars and how we're moving with that. Ms. Hannah, you want to very briefly talk about that and the number of students that we think will serve with that upgrade?
Yes. So we have recently had an article in the Robinsonian of how we are starting the groundwork for our new building in Lumberton for Shining Stars. With that, we are adding 3 classrooms, pre-K classrooms. We are also adding a developmental day classroom that will house our more severe students that are needing extra supports. We are building 8 offices, 4 therapeutic testing rooms, and 3 therapy rooms. We are doing this to create a more effective process for determining disabilities within the county. We are opening this up to our 3-year-olds who have not had a place to come within this county. We heard your need. I've received your phone calls this year. I listened to the community, and we know that we will need more spacing for our pre-K students. So we are doing what we can to meet that need of our community at this time. We are also building a gym at the back that will house more play area, along with looking right now at an outdoor environmental classroom for those children. We are going to update the kitchen, along with making sure that our students have the up-to-date classrooms that will fulfill sensory needs for our disabled students.
Dr. Williams has got the floor.
Update us on accreditation at Shining Stars Pembroke.
So for the past 2 years, Pembroke was under a provisional status. We actually lost our accreditation in Pembroke. We received news this Friday that Pembroke is now a nationally accredited school, daycare. We are a 5-star licensed facility, and I would like to commend our teachers and our principals that went to making that possible this year. It was a very hard task filled with putting components of every single classroom and every single child on what we do. They went through rigorous observations, and they finally received the words that we are now a nationally accredited institute again.
Very good.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Henry?
Mr. Brewer.
I'm just wondering, we just went over the playground equipment. Is Shining Stars included in this? It's a different category? Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Where we're at now, Doc? Family engagement survey. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. I'm Brendalyn Thompson, the Family Engagement Specialist. I wanted to come before you quickly to give you a good update about family engagement. Currently, we're publicizing our survey titled Building Trust for Family Engagement. The title of this survey actually came about at a cabinet meeting in January. During that time, Dr. Williamson introduced us to David Horsager, who's the author of the book, The Trust Edge. In this novel, the author talks about how you and your organization can become trusted and how lack of a trust is a huge expense. The book also has 8 key factors, also known as the 8 pillars of trust. They are clarity, compassion, character, competency, commitment, connection, contribution, and consistency. This survey is part of our continuing efforts to understand the experiences families and parents and caring adults have with our school system, as well as to determine how well we are trusted. We will use the data collected to inform and improve our attempts to build capacity for family and school partnership. So far, the data managers have put a message on report cards that went home at the end of the semester. Each school received hard copies in the language that their demographic deserve in case parents need a hard copy. The schools, as well as Dr. Burnett, has shared the information on all of our social media outlets. And sometime this week, you should see an article in the Robinsonian referring to the survey as well.
Anybody have any questions? Comments?
I thought it was a good survey.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item is state health grant.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. My name is Philip Oxnine, and I'm the MTSS coordinator. I'm here to talk with you tonight about some informational updates regarding the state health plan. First of which, as part of the state health grant, we have put in 30 recommendations for CNAs, 4 of which of those have already been hired and placed at their schools. We are in partnership with RCC continually. We had them put out a blast on the RCC communication system to garner interest from their students to come and join our team and work for us as CNAs. We coordinated that meeting with Dr. Meekins, the Director of Nursing, and Ms. Sheila Smith, the Nurse Aide Director of RCC. So out of those 30 students that we've recommended, 17 of those were RCC students and 13 were non-RCC students. So we're very excited about that, to bring them on board. Some of their duties and responsibilities are to assist with school-level COVID-19 contact tracing, school-level monitoring of symptom-positive staff and students, to administer support for the registered nurse at each school, and to maintain security of student health services and equipment. They have been assigned devices for contact tracing, the cell phone and a laptop to keep up with that as well. As part of the state health grant, we are very excited to announce that we are in collaboration with WNBF News, and we have created a commercial that's going to be aired at the end of the Super Bowl. So we're very excited about that. We're going to share that with you tonight in just a few minutes once I give some more updates. So as part of this public service announcement, we're calling it the Public Schools of Robeson County COVID Awareness Campaign, and this comes through WNBF News. We have 3 main factors that we have discussed in this commercial: COVID vaccine information, the importance of getting COVID tested, and also the 3 W's: wear, wash, and wait.
The Public Schools of Robeson County is one team with one goal.
Cases of COVID-19 continue to increase nationwide. We want to remind our students and staff of the 3 W's: wash, wait, and wear.
Wash your hands.
Wait it out if you experience COVID symptoms. And always wear your mask.
The COVID-19 vaccine is FDA approved, safe, and effective for children 5 years and older.
Remember, Robeson County, we are all in this together.
Thank you, Philip. Appreciate it. Next item is gaggle.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman Smith, Dr. Williamson, and board members. I appreciate your time. Thank you. My name is Megan Collins, and I'm the Score Counselor Coordinator. And I would like to bring some updates and some information regarding our Gaggle program. Currently, our partnership with Uncp through this program is coming to an end on June 30th of this year. We have been given the opportunity and encouraged by NCDPI to apply for a grant that will allow us to purchase the Gaggle program once more. We will apply for this grant as soon as possible, and so we are able to purchase it and utilize the information again. Does anybody have any questions at this point in time?
Any questions? Terry?
Do you have any information, or can you share with us how many reports the system has generated?
We have, give me one moment, because we have gathered, it's been lots of information. And what I'll do is I'll give you like between a 4-month span, if that's okay. So in a 4-month span, when we were going through an update with our Gaggle representatives, we had, in relation to particular incidences, we had about 689 incidences, but that is not including the number of items that were created by students.
Any other questions or comments? Vontae?
What is our contingency plan if we don't get this grant?
It is guaranteed that we will get it.
Okay. No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, that's a good
We will
question.
get it.
We like that word. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Meg. You
Thank you,
got
sir.
something done
Thank
with?
you, gentlemen.
Thank
Ladies.
you. Appreciate it. Dale's already done the COVID vaccine, so we're down to McKinney-Vento.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and members of the board. My name is Shanitha Nance, and I'm the McKinney-Vento liaison. The McKinney-Vento Act is a federal program passed to help families who are experiencing homelessness to keep their children in school. In January of 2002, Congress authorized the McKinney-Vento Act to support the education needs of children and youth experiencing homelessness. The federal law entitles children who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence to a free, appropriate education and requires schools to remove barriers to their enrollment, attendance, and success in schools by addressing academic challenges and family issues. The McKinney-Vento definition of homelessness includes families sharing homes due to economic hardship, as well as those living in shelters, motels, cars, and abandoned buildings. I'm here tonight to share some updates on the McKinney-Vento program. As of today, we have identified 145 students who are experiencing homelessness, along with 18 non-school age siblings. We have a McKinney-Vento liaison identified at each one of our schools. They're either a school social worker or a school counselor. They assist our children with locating shelter, food, clothing, providing social and emotional support, and of course, assisting them with academic concerns. Some of the future goals of our McKinney-Vento program is including to look at data that is individualized to meet these children's needs. Those needs include tutoring, academic support, attendance support, trauma-informed care, and social-emotional learning. They want access to connectivity, devices, and other technology so they can be connected to their teachers, transportation, counselors, social workers, liaisons, and mentors. We would like to increase staff time, provide training, support, capacity building, and engagement for increased identification. We would like to provide wraparound services in collaboration with community-based organizations. And lastly, to work with Head Start and preschool programs to assist our non-school age children with early intervention services.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Henry?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank,
Henry's floor. You got the floor. Henry's got the floor.
I wanted to thank Ms. Shanita
Yes, sir.
for reaching out. It was brought to my attention that some other schools needed some items, and her department was able to provide that. We thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jensen?
This is a budget question, and if I'm out of order, just tell me. I had underscored this earlier, looking at the current budget balance for Mckinney-Vento, and it gives that balance. And then the other columns have zeros except for the remaining balance, which reflects the current balance. Any light shed for maybe my ignorance on this?
No, sir, we are in the process of receiving additional funding, both federal and state funding, that are going to offset some of these costs. They're called 183, 184, 081. So we have some budgets that are going to be coming down that are going to be supporting the program. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Nothing's been spent out of those yet is forthcoming though.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I
That's what
thought.
she's referring to, those
Right.
grants coming.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
for your time.
Appreciate it. Next item is the mental health support personnel.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. I'm here to provide an update about House Bill 75 about the mental health support personnel, which includes psychologists, school counselors, social workers, and nurses. Based on our current numbers, we have 3 psychologists, 64 school counselors, 41 social workers, and 21 nurses. And that is an increase for several years. We're also using additional funding through Esser as well as Title IV.
Any comments, questions? Terry?
I have a quick question about, I'm not sure, Ms. Jennifer, if you would be the person to answer this. You know, over the past couple of years with what we've been experiencing in our district, you know, what's going on nationwide with COVID and that sort of thing, I know there's likely some increased incidences of mental health challenges among our youth. Do we have a centralized location to sort of put together some data in terms of who it's affecting the most? It would be interesting to see if this is something you have or something you could probably pull. I know with that Gaggle system, there's lots of data that's generated, but is there any populations that it's affecting more than others, maybe genders, age groups, and that sort of thing? I think it would be, and if so, could we sort of do something to, and you may have already done this, to sort of maybe be proactive about reaching out to those that may be most at risk?
And part of that response is, yes, Gaggle does provide that information to us. And what we've noticed over time is there a trend with our upper grades. We do have a few incidents where we're primarily looking at our elementary, but what we've observed over the past months with Gaggle is that we see a lot of our students in the middle school as well as high school. And we have looked at developing a plan on how to address that mental support system. Part of that work is also with Second Step, and we're looking at visiting other programs as well to actually address those needs. That is why I have such a strong support staff behind me that is actually working through that process to identify that. There is a conversation with us about how we're going to actually address some of the incidents that we're seeing in the Gaggle alert, and that is one of the reasons we want to continue with the Gaggle process, is because we actually will say that the Gaggle processes this year has helped us save lives. And we've had many incidents where we've been benefited, or where we have benefited from that process. But yes, we are tracking that data for you.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Next item is leverage leadership.
Chairman, I'm going to yield to Mr. Davis, and I'll pick up leverage leadership at the end.
You're going to yield to who?
Mr. Davis?
Is that for master scheduling? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, master scheduling.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, and members of the board. With support of student support services and auxiliary services, we have seen that the master schedule should reveal the true beliefs, attitudes, and values and priorities of a school. what we have learned is that we either have equity imbalances in the amount of instructional time and of creating the capacity for programming and training in our schools. We have took upon the initiative of looking at our master schedules at our schools to possibly bring in an outside software company, as well as look at things that we can do to support the master schedule so that we can come together to bring in the equity, as it includes increasing minutes of instructional time. This is important to us as we advance in our leverage leadership so that we can see how the instructional time can be maximized. This will also help with personnel in the school and where personnel can be used, or if we need personnel, if we don't need personnel. We feel it's important to be transparent when we look at master schedules across elementary, middle, and high school. And so with your support, we know that we can put this together as it is a crucial component for our leverage leadership.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next item on the agenda is Career and Technical Education, CTE Initiative.
I'd like to say good evening to Superintendent Williamson, Chairman Smith, and the rest of the board members. Just a few things. You should have received, or you will soon receive, a save the date invitation for an event that we are planning. This is for March 30th and 31st. It is called the Career Center Expo. We are taking 2 days where we will be setting up at the Southeastern Ag Center. And we will have hands-on activities of all the programs that we offer in our T&I programs. And that will give the 8th grade students a chance to come to that expo and get involved in some hands-on activities to show them what programs we're going to be featuring at the Career Center. So we find that it's very, very crucial to get this out to the students. We have in the past brought students to the campus of the Career Center, but when you walk through a classroom and students are at work in the classroom and you just hear a speech, that's all you know. But if you have a chance to get engaged in that activity, if you have a chance to put a power screw gun in your hand and put a screw in a piece of wood, that changes your perspective. So that's one of the big events that we're working on right now, and that will be at the Southeastern Ag Center, March 30th and 31st. Please, if you haven't already received your save the date cards, you should be receiving those. And mark that on your calendar. We would love to see you there, because the more people that see this and can go out and tell the story of what they've seen, the better it's going to be. Okay? Another component that I'd like to share with you, due to Esser funds that we will be receiving or have received, we are planning a 2-week summer camp, and that's going to be over all of our program areas, those that are at the high schools and those that are at the Career Center. That 2-week summer camp will give students an opportunity to be involved, and we are targeting rising 8th graders, rising 9th graders, and rising 10th graders. It's a part of the Career Accelerator funding, okay? So, did somebody say something? I'm sorry, I'm hearing things. But anyway, this is part of the Accelerator funding. Now, when we talk about career acceleration, that's not, just bringing somebody in and let them do a sit and get. We want to accelerate some of the skills that those students will be able to participate in another grade level. So if we accelerate them from that 8th grade level and give them some skills that they need to go into one of the programs that they will be able to, once they obtain that high school level, then we'll have to spend less time teaching those skills, and they can get more involved and more deeper into that particular career. Career acceleration. As a matter of fact, we are currently having a conference that I just drove back here for this meeting tonight in Pinehurst, where the CTE directors across the state of North Carolina have come together, and this is one of the things that we are focusing on, is the career acceleration. So those are just a few of the things that we're working on, among other things with internships, getting students out there. It's still a little hard because of the pandemic. Folks don't want to sort of bring outside people into their businesses and their companies. But we are finding a few that say, hey, yes, we will take a student here or we'll take a student there. And every chance that we can get to get a student into an internship and giving them that extra credit for a class and putting that on a resume, that's going to be, giving them a stronger advantage to get their foot into the door for a future career. Any questions?
Where's the summer camps, Herman?
Summer camps, we will have summer camps at each of the high schools and at the Career Center.
Okay.
And we're running that in conjunction with the other summer programs that's already going to be going on so that we can share transportation.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Dr. Mann, you got the floor.
Okay, hello, Mr. Pound Cake Herman. Herman, I have a suggestion, and you may or may not say that you can pull it off. On your 2-day expose,
Yes, ma'am.
the classes at the high school, the CTE classes, have you ever thought about inviting the principals to maybe there might be something special in some of their CTE classes they want to display that day? Could be in the health allied field, it could be in the sewing, it could be in the cooking something. Have you ever thought about that? In your 2-day expose.
We can look at the option of adding some of those folks there, but all of those folks will be involved in the summer.
I heard that.
Camps. But yes, we can add some of those folks to that expo.
I would love that, Herman Jr.
So I plan to see you there, right?
I will be there waiting on the pound cake.
Okay, we'll make it work.
Thank you,
All right,
Dr. Mann.
thanks.
Vontae's got the floor.
I just want to make a comment. You know, Mr. Herman did teach me technology in high school.
Yay!
I just want to make that comment.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Brenda's got the floor.
Mr. Herman, I did meet a young man from, he graduated from Hope County, but he got his internship. He works with King's Electric. He actually stood and watched them do my church, and now that young man is an electrician himself.
Yes.
So I think it is very good. This is something good. I'm hearing so much good stuff. I just want to say thank you, Jesus, hallelujah, but I'm excited, y'all. Makes me want to go back to school in public schools in Robinson County. It's
Yes.
awesome.
And Dr. Robert wants me to mention one other thing that we are in the process of continuing. This year we went into our middle schools. Every 8th grader in the middle school took a career interest inventory. We compiled all that information to see where those students would be interested in going into once they obtained that high school level. We also went back and because the 9th grade, they just missed so much. Over the last 2 years, that group has missed so much. So we said, hey, look, let's go give this career interest inventory to those 9th graders. We compiled that career interest inventory too with the information. That helps us to plan out what classes we need to plot at our high school level for those students. And we should know, how many students are interested in all of our programming areas. Okay?
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Herman.
Thank you.
Stem Robotics.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, and board members, it is my honor in the absence of Ms. Susan Miller Hendricks to bring you an update about Stem Robotics. And in the good faith from Ms. Farabee over here, we're going to continue with the good stuff.
That's right.
This year, our STEM and robotics team has seen over 46 lessons in STEM robotics throughout our district. We have also been the first to produce the Lego robotics in pre-K, 2nd grade, and 7th grade. Our goal is to expand in the 2022-23 school year. We also have the first Tech Challenge robotics team at Red Springs High School that will be competing. And our goal is to expand that again for next year. And of course, we have our first robotics competition team at Robinson Early College. And it is also my honor to say, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, that our early college team placed 2nd in the state at the State Beta Club Convention this year for robotics.
Yes.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item is the North Carolina Association for Scholastic Activities.
Good evening. Where are we at? There it is, right there. Okay. All right. Let me start the timer here because Dr. Robert told me I had 2 minutes. So, so we're starting the timer right now. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Brandt, the Planetarium Director, and tonight I'm coming to you wearing a completely different hat. And this is the hat I'm wearing, courtesy of Ray Bradbury. Go to the edge of the cliff and jump off. Build your wings on the way down. And when I'll finish this, we're saying, and then watch it soar as it flies. That's exactly what we've been doing with high school and middle school quiz bowl. We were registered this year to compete in the North Carolina Academic Scholastics Association or something like that. Whatever the acronym is, I don't care. I just coach quiz bowl. Don't mind me. Anyway, we got 23 coaches who are practicing and running competitions with their team. They're all going to be earning $500 for the privilege, paying after the season concludes in March. My role is to help the coach put the school on the academic map, again, for some of them, of course. And of course, winning is a habit, courtesy of Coach Lombardi. In 11 days, we went from teachers, would you like to coach quiz bowl, from the principal to the teacher, to over 40 matches played by 23 schools so far. These guys are literally flying this thing. After we've shoved it off the cliff, they're going. These ladies and gentlemen are doing really, really good things. I've put in a couple of vignettes here from the different players in this game. That should say quiz bowl, by the way. I'll fix that later. Sorry, that right there should be quiz bowl. Anyway, Ms. Garcia Morel from Orem gave us a pretty nice quote. I forgot to remove the student's name, so let's do that right now. That's nice. Our team captain, who shall be named later, did a great job. Pascal Locklear from Deep Branch also posted, and apparently they're getting ice cream, so that's cool. That's where I need to go to practice with them right there. So here's what's going to happen on things we're working on here to help the coaches and the kids. I'm ordering 2 publications that I found really helpful in my coaching career. Oops. And possible field trips for the coaches and some of the students to the regionals, which are March 12th in Fayetteville at 71st High School. And school board members and anybody else who's listening to this at home, if you want to volunteer to read for these competitions, you can find out just how academically astute these kids are. They're great. That's the conclusion of my presentation, unless anybody has any questions, of course.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Brandt.
You're welcome, of course.
Appreciate it.
All right, gotta go.
Next item is the Beta Club.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent Dr. Williamson, and board members. This past weekend, our seniors and junior Beta Club convention from January 28th to February 1st. We had many schools go and compete. We were a little concerned about the weather. Thankfully, they got there safely and returned safely. And we're proud to say that the following schools did participate in our state Beta Club competition: Early College, Lumberton High, Purnell Sweat High, Union Elementary, Prospect School, Pembroke Middle, St. Paul's Elementary. Of these schools that participated, we had over 25 student and teams from the public schools of Robeson County place and win awards at this year's state competition, which will qualify each and every one of them to participate at the National Beta Club competition. I would also like to say that for the first time, we have 2 elected officers at the state level from the public schools of Robeson County. Elementary president, Ms. Myra Grace Locklear from Prospect School, and junior secretary, the Riley Dow from Prospect School. So we're excited for them.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. Next item on the agenda is the Black History Month.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, and board members. As you all know, February is Black History Month, and we have already had some wonderful, wonderful speakers at our schools, on our campuses, presenting to our students on historical events. And I was hoping to have this ready, but we are constantly getting in updates. So I told Mr. Davis we would provide this to you electronically via Dr. Burnett tomorrow once we finalize everything this evening. But we are already up to 4 pages of all the different events that the schools have submitted so far. And like I said, we still have some things that we need to add to that. So from virtual tours to wax museums of different African Americans, remember the past, some of the concerts that schools are doing, the virtual tours of historical Black universities and colleges. We have guest readers on our campuses. I mean, it is just wonderful. We were at St. Paul's Elementary today, and one of the bulletin boards dealt with Black history and the famous inventors. So the kids are seeing all over the campuses from high school, middle school, and elementary. So we're just so proud of all the great things happening for this month as we celebrate and honor all those that have come before us for Black History Month. Any questions or comments?
A comment in reference to Black History Month. I got a couple calls today. Do people have to call here to call the board to get permission to have a Black History program, or we encourage your people to, let them know what's going on? Because I got some calls about that today.
No, that's by school building, but
Okay.
no one has to call to get permission.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Right, that's all, Mr. Leach. As Dr. Williams said, it's a site-based, so the
Okay.
principal, we let the principals and their committees decide on what events they will host on their campuses and who will be invited and participate.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Robert.
Okay, for next category is UNCP tutors, and we are so glad to work with our partners. I told Mr. Terry, I think every time we talk about UNCP, all the great things that's happening with our partnership, with our collaboration with the School of Education and all the departments over there. But this year, we are partnering with the Community and Civic Engagement team to provide us some tutors to go in our schools. We work with Ms. Petit and Mr. Jacobs on securing 20 student tutors to work in our K-8 schools. And they will begin, we were hoping they would begin this week, but unfortunately with some scheduling conflicts, it will be next week, at the end of next week. And we were able to secure that for a pretty good rate, $40,000 for those 20 tutors, because we're paying $12.50 an hour, which is a pretty good rate. So we're just so proud of them helping us with that. And on top of that, they will provide us 10 additional tutors through what they call the American Reads Foundation. So altogether, we'll be receiving 30 tutors from UNCP to help us in grades K through 8. Any questions or comments?
Craig?
Follow up, Dr. Williamson, with conversation we had about UNCP and maybe RCC coming on campuses, did any decision made or has that been looked at for recruiting purposes?
Yes, Bobby sent out an email today. The campuses are open for recruiters to come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I'd just like to follow up with that, which I'd been contacted about UNCP coming on our high school campuses for recruiting purposes. So again, to the public that is listening, that has been sent out, and you need to contact the high school, I would assume, and then they can make arrangements where they can come on campuses.
That's
Thank you.
correct. Mhm.
Mr. Gentry's got the floor.
Microphone.
I stand for the tutors.
It is 15 weeks. So they'll start next week and we'll tutor for 15 weeks. And we'll work around the students' schedules.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Brenda?
Dr. Locklear, my concern, what schools, will it be to every elementary school?
K-8.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're trying to
every
make sure,
K-8.
yeah, we're trying to make sure we get at least one tutor in every school. We're going to do everything we can, Ms. Fairby.
Any other comments or questions? What about that leverage? When are you gonna do that? Leverage leadership?
Save the best for last.
Okay.
Yes. Leverage leadership. We had the pleasure, Dr. Carr, Mr. Davis, Ms. Freeman, Mr. Jamal Campbell, Ms. Amanda Graham, presented at Pinehurst at the annual North Carolina Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development Conference last Thursday. And Robeson County was, I mean, we were talked about from one end of the room to the other because everybody wanted to know, how did this program happen to fall in the lap of Robeson County? So we had to tell them the historical events that occurred, but they were so impressed with what's happening here in the public schools of Robeson County as it relates to building that capacity with our school administrators, making them those instructional leaders that we know that they are and can be, and working with our assistant principals, our academic coaches. We're just so pleased to know that it's happening right here in Robeson County first. So, so for upcoming events, we want to make sure that last year or this year, we trained 12 of our principals. And next year, well, actually, we're going to start in March. We're going to train the other 12 to provide that leverage leadership training for them. And that's going to start, like I said, in March and finish up in June. And then we're going to have our assistant principals for the next year, the 23-24 school year. So by the time we finish up the 24 school year, all of our school administrators, principals, and assistant principals will have gone through the leverage leadership. And that is just going to be a tremendous asset for this district as all of our administrators are trained in instructional leadership. It's going to be awesome.
Dr. Williams, got the floor.
Dr. Locklear, we're going to train the other 24, correct?
Yes, sir.
Principals next year. You said
Yeah,
12, but it's 24.
Yeah, 24 starting in March. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Terry's got the floor.
Do administrators receive any sort of additional compensation for this training?
Yes, sir. That is correct. I do.
Any other questions or comments? All righty, I think that completes the list, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
I may.
Yes, sir.
I want to recognize this outstanding staff and the job that they've done. Well done. Well done.
I'd like to back that up myself as the chairman of the school board. That's what we just experienced was pretty impressive. I know people are working very hard every day, and I personally want to commend you for what you're doing to make the public schools the best it can be. And thank you all for your efforts. Thank you. Henry's got the floor.
Before we move to action item, I just wanted to bring one thing. I asked that we have it on our next calendar, our next meeting if we can. Our calendar year, with all the things that's going on, I've been asked if we could to start communicating some of that, if we know what we're going to do.
When you say calendar year, you mean? Okay. Face covering, action items, face covering policy. Dr. Freddie Williams.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. At your site, we did place our weekly tracking tool in terms of exposure and positive for our staff and our students. We continue to trend down, and we're just thankful for that. Any questions? Bobby, any comment on?
Chairman Smith, if I may add as well, Dr. Williamson and I had a conversation today. Again, a lot of our decisions are focused around our vaccination rates. And so I went and I pulled our vaccination rates for the state. Currently, the state is sitting at 65% of individuals receiving at least one dose. And the most recent information for Robeson County, we only have we have 46% of our population still only receiving one dose.
Any other comments or questions? And this has to take place every 30 days, Dr. Williams, just for the public to understand.
That's correct.
We
And
know it's
so-
a moving target, and at some point, I talked to Dr. Williams today about this, at some point, some other LEAs or whatever as the rates keep dropping or vaccination keeps improving, then we may come back with a different recommendation.
But
Soon, yeah.
Ms. Smith, I know what the superintendent, Dr. Williamson's, gonna suggest, but my thing is also is that I'm getting calls from parents. Y'all may not. The other 10 board members on this board may not be getting phone calls, but I am. And my thing is that the parents want options. And it's as fair for one to wear it as it is not to wear it. And that's their concern. And they call and talk to whomever, but it's like it's never good enough. That, I mean, in what we're saying and how we're explaining this to the parents, and why, you know, just like Mr. Bobby just said, at 46%. But and I'm just saying from January, there's 50% of Robertson County that had COVID during January. Now, I don't know what kind of track they keeping up with, but I know I got my information on my phone. So, and I have experienced it, but I'm also saying that parents are wanting the options from the public schools of Robertson County. And it's our job to listen to them, decide it's as fair for one not to wear it as it is. And if, you know, my thing is, if we're doing for one, we need to do for all. That's where I'll leave that.
Wayne's got the floor, didn't Terry?
Yeah, one thing that I want to address is, help me out here, Mr. Bobby, if you can. The CDC, for us to receive the money, we have a protocol that we have to go through. Is that correct? As far as everyone wearing masks and having plexiglass, does that sound correct? In the schools, can somebody help me with this right here?
There's no funds tied to the recommendations of CDC.
Right.
No funds. So it's not about money. It's
Right.
about the health and the well-being of our students and employees, but there's no funds tied to that.
Okay, so pretty much it's, in other words, we're on our own, or is this a CDC?
They make recommendations to us. What's driving our decisions is the data that we're sharing.
Right.
When you look at the exposures and the positive rates in our schools, that's in a controlled environment because we're treating schools every day. Our concern is the 40% of the public. That rate is low, and so that's driving our decisions. We will get to a point where we hope to be able to make a different recommendation, but at this point, we believe that our best recommendation is to continue our mask mandate in our buildings, on the bus, and optional outside. We're trending down in the right direction, but again, schools are a controlled environment, so that's why we're seeing that.
And I do know, if I can
Go ahead,
piggyback
you
off
got
that
it.
right there, is that, like we have some kids and possibly some teachers that's had the shots. And of course, they're still having to wear the mask. So, you know, it's a two-edged sword, however you look at it, but we're still getting it both ways. And you know, we shouldn't be getting it both ways, but I'm gonna say this loud and clear. Need to quit listening to a bunch of idiots in Washington, because none of them don't know nothing. And I'll be first one to say it. Fauci needs to be in the ocean. But I'm just saying, when you don't get concrete information, this is what you get right here. But my concern is, and I think what it is with a lot of parents, is that their kids have had shots, but they still having to wear masks, if that kind of makes sense right there. So I don't have an answer. Stuck over here wearing a mask, and I've had my shot. So what do I know? You know, so.
Terry, you
Right.
got the floor.
Mr. Bobby, you may be able to answer this. If we look at the positivity rate campus-wide versus the positivity, not campus-wide, the positivity rate county-wide, how does that compare to the positivity rate within the school system? So I've got that question, and I've also got a follow-up. or an additional question. No matter what option we go with, is that district-wide, or can we make adjustments based on ages or grades, that sort of thing? Because there's not a lot of data to suggest that younger children transmit it or have bad experiences if they catch COVID.
Yeah. I'm going to continue to ask for approval for the district as a whole and every grade span in every building.
All right.
And
Mr. Juicer's got the floor.
I know contact tracing, we've been doing that for quite some time now. And there's been several references made to the additional duties that teachers have. My thinking is at this point, we have a substantial pool of data to either reinforce the validity of contact tracing or to say that that is not productive. So where are we right now with our position on that in terms of making the decision to continue with that?
I do want to clarify, we have not asked teachers to do contact tracing. To my knowledge, they're not. Ms. Freeman and Bob, you may want to speak to that, but we have not made that a requirement of any teacher.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead. So, Mr. Gentry, early on, we realized the impact or the amount of time our nurses were spending in our contact tracing. So we met with all of our nurses and all of our principals back in September, if I'm not mistaken, and each school was to implement a COVID team. Now, again, that team was to consist of support staff on their campuses, counselors, social workers, YDS, those individuals that were there, not necessarily tied to a classroom every single day. Now, if teachers get involved in contact tracing, it is simply, here's my list, here's my seating chart, here is my phone numbers. And then those individuals complete the contact tracing outside of that. And to add to the contact tracing, that is not a choice that is left up to us. Contact tracing is a mandate from the health department. When we are doing this work, this is not our decision to contact trace, that this is a mandate that is established from the health department because we're still in a pandemic.
And I would like to add also, in addition to that, that is why we presented and shared with you the state health contract this evening. And we applied for that funding as well so that we could provide that support for the CNAs to be in there to provide that additional support for the school nurses.
Terry's got the floor, then Brendan.
So, Mr. Bobby, based on the latest numbers that we have for the school system, what is our total number of positive cases versus how many on the staff side versus how many total employees there are? And how does that compare with the positivity rate with the county?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. We do not track a positivity rate for the school system because that means we would at that point have to determine that that person got or contracted COVID while they were in the building. All we're doing is saying, I could call and say, I am positive. Now, I have no idea where I got it from. And then we do our contact tracing from there. But for last week, you can see that we had 44 exposures. So that meant that those individuals were out a minimum of anywhere from five days on, depending on if they tested positive. And we had 43 COVID positives. So last week, we had about 87 individuals that we can confirm should not have been in the building due to COVID. Now, to add to that, there could have been a layover from the week previously. And Ms. Thompson and I talked about this earlier. So we talk about 87 for last week. That does not count all, our vacancies and other issues why folks may not be on campus.
Brenda's you got a follow-up?
Yeah, and how many total staff do we have?
Brenda's got the floor.
Mr. Chairman, what we also have to remember is, and Dwayne mentioned Dr. Fauci, we still don't know the root of where this virus is coming from because several individuals whole households fully vaccinated, but they got the COVID. They claim through our tracing that they didn't go around anyone. And then Dr. Fauci said the virus fooled them. But what we cannot get caught up into who is fooling, we need to stay as protected as possible until this thing die out to where we can take these things off. I don't know about the rest of you all, but I love to look good sometimes. Okay? You know, I change my wigs, it don't work always, but this mask, do I get tired of wearing it? Yes, I do. But safety and health is my greatest concern for students and staff.
Any other questions, comments? Dr. Emanuel, Dr. Emanuel's got the floor.
I want to go back to something the superintendent said. So, Mr. Superintendent, we didn't have to wear a mask to initially start with, and I'm being facetious, okay? Because you're saying that the CDC and all the recommendations from all the organizations that it wouldn't have mattered with the funding anyway, that they were going to still give us the funding anyway. Now, we as human beings should have known to protect ourselves, but that what you said a while ago, you don't think that had any bearing at all on them funding us in the pandemic, us following any kind of recommendations?
Dr. Manuel, what I said was that we have not received any funding from CDC.
Okay, from any of those, any of the organizations.
That's correct.
So actually, and this sounds, please correct me if I'm wrong, there were no repercussions over a school system anyway for not wearing masks or wearing masks, as far as financial.
Not as it relates to CDC, and I'm not aware of from the state or the federal government.
So they would have sent us that pandemic money regardless. I guess what I'm trying to say is, make sure I understand.
Right. We would have received the Essa funding regardless, because that was not connected to what CDC was saying.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for me.
Vontae?
I'd like to make the motion, call the question, make the motion that we continue wearing masks.
Have a motion by Vontae and a second by Brenda to continue wearing the face covering at this particular time. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
We can do that. All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How you vote, Dr. Emanuel? Dr. Emanuel?
I vote to continue wearing the mask.
Okay. So that would be 8. All opposed, raise your right hand. That's Randy and Dwayne. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one statement.
Yeah.
And we're, as far as I'm concerned, we're done with this. But if you say 87 out of 4,000, that's only 2.1%. So.
Okay. Motion passed. Motion passed, Dr. Williams.
Great, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Public Schools Roberts County 2021-22 Summer Program Plan. Dr. Robert Locklear.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, board members. According to the State Board of Education policy, retesting is no longer an option in North Carolina testing program. However, for the 2021-22 school year, the Department of Public Instruction will allow state assessments at the conclusion of a summer school program. The assessments available for summer school testing are end of grade mathematics, grades 3 through 8, reading grades 4 through 8, end of grade science, grades 5 and 8, end of course for biology, NC Math 1, and NC Math 3. So one of the criteria for summer school testing is that the public schools of Robeson County must offer a remediation program to all students not scoring proficient on eligible end of grade or end of course assessments. And of course, grade 3 is excluded because of the Read to Achieve guidelines. Participation in summer school testing and any remediation
is entirely voluntary for students, and it will not impact the student's promotion, retention, or final grade for a course. So in the 21-22 school year, students are again required to attend remediation to participate in the summer testing program. That means that these classes will be held face-to-face, not virtual. We plan.
You have something else? We have a motion by Brenda to, and a second by Randy. Any further discussion? Craig?
Just a quick question. Now, Dr. Robert, this does not have nothing to do with the regular summer school program as we had last year. This is just dealing with the testing component,
Yes.
summer school for that, and then a follow-up testing. Other summer programs like we had last year would be coming forth later.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the team, I think someone mentioned earlier, we're meeting tomorrow to finalize the summer school program. So
Okay.
we'll get that information out. But if I could just give the dates so the public and the parents could hear those dates. We're looking at June 13th, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. So that give us 12 instructional days, which will be 6 hours of instruction, 1 hour for lunch and physical activity. So a total of 84 instructional hours. And of course, we'll test on the last 2 days, which will be June 29th and June 30th.
Dr. Williams has got the floor.
Dr. Lockley, I want to clarify now, this is our summer school program. What we're voting on is to have it, if we end it by June 30th, those scores will count in this year's score. But this is our summer school program. We're not going past the date. Last year, it went for, how long was it?
It was
6 weeks.
6
6
weeks.
weeks.
Yes, 6 weeks.
So
Go ahead, Craig.
so then the follow-up, this is the summer school program
This is-
as we had last year when it was 6 weeks.
Shorter duration,
Yes, the
correct?
duration, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Gentry?
I'll learn one of these days. If you take the factoring out of requiring it for promotion, requiring summer school assessments for promotion, does what effect, and there could be some negative effect of lack of enrollment because of that, has that been taken into consideration?
Are you referring to like high school with credits?
Yes.
Credit recovery.
And
Yeah.
they can gain credits with credit recovery. They can gain.
Thank you.
Dwayne's got the floor.
Call for the question.
I do want to clarify again, we will use summer school in consideration for promotion. That final decision is made by the building principal, but part of that promotion consideration can be summer school and the work that's done there. That's what we've done in the past, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Dr. Emmanuel's got a
I'm
question. Go
still
ahead, Dr.
calling for
Emmanuel.
the question.
Dr. Emmanuel.
I respect Dwayne. He's called for the question, but Mr. Gentry pretty well addressed what I had wanted to ask. I'm okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passed. This time we'll go to the policy updates, Mr. Gentry.
Yes, the policy committee met.
Hold on one minute. Yeah, where's that?
We added it after.
I had it on this over here. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do that. We got the EC contracts, Robert Locklear. You guys will note that sheet, not this sheet.
Chairman Smith, Superintendent Williamson, board members, tonight we would like to ask or request your approval for 4 additional EC service contracts, 1 school psychologist, 2 therapists, 1 occupational, 1 physical, and 1 teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the summer program, the EC contracts for additional help.
Second.
Have a motion by Henry, a second by Bonte. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Now we can go to Mr. Gentry.
Thank you, sir, and I believe I do have my microphone on. policy committee met on February the 3rd to consider spring and fall updates. And these were essentially reiterating and summarizing policies that we had already presented as a committee and that had been approved. And so there were no proposed revisions. So at this time, I move approval of the spring and fall 2021 policy updates.
Second.
Sir?
Yeah.
Limit 1 minute. I
Okay.
had a motion by Mr. Gentry, second by Brandon. Is that correct? Now discussion. Now, Dr. Mann, you got the floor.
Okay, policy number 3450, class ranking. I just have, to me, it's confusing. Okay, maybe you can clarify it, Mr. Gentry. Are you talking about your marshals? That's clear. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but when you get down, you talk about summa cum laude and all that. You say that would be, you had your last sentence on the second last paragraph. Final rankings are computed at the end of the final marking period. I guess what confuses me as just reading it cold, summa cum laude, that has to be determined before the very end. And see, I had a question last year from a parent. She said, how can they say my child didn't get summa cum laude? Because they decided at the end of the third 9 weeks, because they printed the programs before the last day of school. So I guess to me, maybe I'm reading too much in it. That's confusing. Because the summa cum laudes and the magna cum laudes are not decided that last day of school.
Hold on 1 minute. Bobby, you act like you want to.
Yeah, but somebody clarify that to my reading. I'm reading that last section as it's decided the final rankings the last day of school. But see the way that's stating up there, the summa cum laudes and all that is not decided the third 9 weeks.
So Dr. Emanuel, in looking at this policy for the designation of graduation honors, and that would be the summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and so on, that is done at the conclusion of the third 9 weeks.
Right, but when you read it, it's struck out. Look at the middle where it's, wait a minute.
Right.
So go ahead.
So to walk through what we are proposing, everything that you see that is stricken out in this policy or that is marked through in this policy, we are asking that we remove that so that the policy follows our current practices.
Okay, I understand that. So you're telling me that, make sure I'm reading this right. Summa cum laude is just like the marshals. I'm talking about the time limit. Is that's decided the third 9 weeks?
That is correct for
Okay.
for graduation honor purposes only.
Okay, now do you see that last sentence there? Final rankings are computed at the end of the final marking period. Do you see how that throws all that in question?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. And that could actually happen because the third 9 weeks is not the final marking.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the honors here are for graduation ceremonies only. So at the end of the
year,
we do a final ranking. So
you
we may
stamp it. I understand you stamp it. I understand it totally. I'm asking you, do you see where that last sentence, am I reading too much in it? Do you see how that could be confusing? Because the parents' concern last year was that child, the last 9 weeks, that child scored enough to be what's the second one? Which is the second last one? The summa cum laude, that her child scored enough to have been a summa cum laude the last 9 weeks. You see that final list in that final statement right there?
Yes.
Do you see where I'm coming from, Bobby? She's saying her child could have scored the last 9 weeks to make her in that category. That's where I'm coming from. That final statement, I'm asking you, are we covered saying it like that?
Yes. Yes. because that has always been our practice, is that there could be a change in recognition from when we rank at the end of the third 9 weeks to
Yes, sir.
what the ranking occurs at that final period.
Okay,
So the ranking at the third 9 weeks, again, is to identify and honor graduates. Then
okay,
we turn around and do a final ranking at the end. That would be, I guess you would say, the rubber stamp to say, yes, this is officially where this kid is at.
okay. As long I understand totally what you're saying, and I know it's stamped on the transcripts. I understand all that. But there is also a gray understanding of parents. Well, I had one real contested complaint last year about that one statement or that analogy that at the fourth 9 weeks, the child mom said he made the score to be the second group of kids. But that's okay. I'm fine as long as the principal can explain it and stand by it.
I got Dr. Williamson, I got Terry, and I got Craig.
Let me ask you, Bobby, could we go in and say that that ranking is based on 7 semesters, and that would clarify that it's locked in at the end of the 7 semesters, and then the final ranking would be based on?
That makes sense, Superintendent.
Yes,
Do we need to change it then? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Does it need to be changed?
yes.
You good with that?
Yes, sir. That sounds wonderful. That clarifies it totally to me now.
Okay, you good, Doctor? You good, Mr. Jensen?
Yeah.
Terry's got the floor.
In my mind, it's about the student being recognized, of course, and I think we're set on graduation. But another form of recognition, you know, if we could say something like it will be final rankings are computed at the end after 7 semesters or the final 7 weeks. But could we also say something like, or I don't even know if it's this way right now, are rankings reflected in the student's transcript?
Yes.
Okay. Could
I'm
we,
gonna let Bobby answer. They used to be let Bobby answer.
Yes, rankings are identified on the transcript, but to clarify the reason the language in this has changed is because prior to last year, we were not recognizing our early graduates through the honor process. So if we go in and put a finalized date to say rankings will be done here, then that may limit, that would, like our previous policy stated that we would rank at the end of the third 9 weeks, then that eliminated all of our early graduates because they were not included in the process. So that is the reason that we're proposing this particular change here, so that we can honor our early graduates and also continue honoring those students that earned this distinction by the end of the third 9 weeks.
Well, why don't you do something with make a statement with early graduates? Because there was an issue last year with this statement. Now, that was just one that I know of. So why don't you mention early graduates? There will be consideration given to early graduates or something.
And that is what the first sentence in red takes into account.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait 1 minute.
I got
You got a follow-up, Terry?
I may have missed it somewhere else, Mr. Gentry, but is salutatorians and valedictorians listed? Okay.
You done? Craig's got the floor.
This didn't just happen last year, folks. I'm gonna put it out this way. If you go here at the end, and I know we've done this, the end of the third 9 weeks, this is the summa cum laude. And then you got a child that does enough to go, well, the one below it, they do enough to move up.
Yeah.
And that parent's wanting to see at graduation, my child moved up. And we're not moving the child up. Now, and I understand that. So my point here is we need to make sure this is clearly written that takes care of all of that. Which for me, we threw out a few ideas. I don't have no problem if we need to hold this, let Mr. Bobby or Mr. Gentry come back and look at this again to get it right. Because you don't want a situation to me coming up where you got a kid that's supposed to be at one of the cum laudes and we don't get that kid right that day. Because now That gets people upset, and it gets the child upset, and they worked 12 years for this, and we don't do the salutatorian and valedictorian. We don't do any of that. But any recognition the child can get, if it's a 1/10 of a point or 100th of a point, to me, we need to make sure we get it right before we go there for the graduation. And if what Dr. Williamson suggested would work, I'm fine with that, but let's just make sure we get it right.
Did you have your hand up? Vontae? I got Brenta, then I got Vontae, then I got Dwayne, then I got Randy.
And Mr. Chairman, with the recommendation of the amendment that Dr. Williamson said, that should cover everything that we're trying to make certain works. With what he said. Am I right, Mr. Bobby? With the amendment that Dr. Williamson said, that's gonna cover everything. That's the new wording of language that can go in there.
Well, it gives us a clear cutoff date that there's no question when all that would be calculated.
I think the 7th semester says it all.
If I may, go ahead. The 7th semester wouldn't work because again, our early graduates only have 6. They would not
There
have,
need to be a separate paragraph from there.
we could,
Okay, I got you. I'm gonna get everybody. Vontae.
My question
Huh? Okay.
My question goes with, after graduate cum laude. In addition to recognizing honor and merit-based course, graduate seniors will be allowed to choose one additional course of their choice with principal approval. Now, do we got a list of something that we're approving from the principal side? Because I don't want no principal saying everybody don't believe in the same thing, if not from the same background. So I wonder, do we got a list of something that the principal is going to go by to approve this?
When we talked with principals, we didn't define the list. We did have a conversation around acceptable, not acceptable on that, but we left it up to the principals, that plus one.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I agree. I think we need to pull this, clean it up and bring it back, please. sir.
That's what I'm making. Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to table this for 30 days? Where you can discuss it, to make a motion to table it for 30 days and bring it back at the next board meeting.
Okay. Second by who? Henry. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Okay, and one other, and I agree with Randy, but, okay, so we're saying what, 7? Is that what we're saying now, Mr. Bobby? 7?
yeah, that would be part that the team would have to get together and try to, and to decide what our language needs to be there.
Okay, because this is what you can run into right here. It's just like what Mr. Craig said a while ago, that if you have somebody that's summa cum laude and they turn around and they can move up the following, what, eight week or whatever. I'm not saying this to be smart or anything. So what's the purpose in coming to school to last a little bit of time? If you're going to justify them to be summa cum laude, and that's what they're going to be, and if they happen to bring it up to magna, not saying that to be smart, but I'm like, so what's the purpose in coming to school to last a little bit of time if that's all you're going to pretty much get right there? Well, if you get it on your transcript, you should still be recognized for it. I mean, if
Okay.
you can recognize it on your transcript, but you can't have it recognized overall. Like, if you
You got a motion?
graduate, you won't recognize it as if you're being graduated.
Got a motion by Randy, and a second by Henry to table this for 30 days or the March meeting. Dr. Williams, is that good? And we'll- Bobby, y'all can correct.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to back up and I withdraw my original motion? So I think I see Mr. Grady nodding. Yeah. I
Okay.
withdraw the original motion.
Say that again, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, this is, well, I mean, here's what we need to do.
Can you please use your microphone?
Randy's motion was for this particular policy.
Yes. $34.50.
34.50.
Mhm.
So vote on that motion and then go back to Mr. Gentry's motion on the balance of the recommendations.
The first thing, then we'll vote on the motion by Randy and second by Henry on policy 3450. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
So that policy is tabled. So now, Mr. Gentry, go back to the balance of the,
Okay, all right, so I make a motion that, that the board approve, all of the policies that were, considered, for the spring and fall 2021 policy updates manual, on February the 3rd. Does that cover it?
except policy 3450.
Yeah, with the exception of policy 3450.
Have a motion by Mr. Gentry, second by Henry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Vote. Motion passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the monthly financial report by Mr. Hugh McElwain. Dwayne?
Mr. McElwain, are you bringing anything outside of our monthly report here that
No,
we're
sir.
not aware of?
No, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Dwayne, second by Dr. Emmanuel. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Randy? Yeah, we missed you last month.
I move that the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robeson County go into closed session for the purpose of discussing certified and classified personnel, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and 6, and to consult with the attorney retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the Board of Education for the Public Schools of Robeson County, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and 3. Can I have a second?
Have a motion by Randy, second by Brenda. Go in closed session. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Let's make it quick. come out of closed session. Dwayne Smith made a motion to come out of closed session. Vontae seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Say something? Oh, did you say something? Oh, I heard somebody. Okay. All right. Need approval of closed session minute. Have a motion by Brandon, second by Randy to approve closed session minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Need personnel? Have a motion by Henry and a second by Vontae to accept the personnel as recommended. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Craig?
Mr. Mike, Mr. Jerome, could middle school basketball championships or semifinals tomorrow and then championship next Monday? Tuesday, I'm sorry. Can you give us the sites tomorrow in case people where they're at tomorrow?
Can you please come to the microphone?
He wants you to go to the microphone, Jerome.
Yes, sir. There's a boys game at St. Paul's Middle. And I'm trying to think now, and Lumberton Junior. The girls' game will be at South Robinson and Pembroke Middle. And the winners tomorrow will advance to the championship game next Tuesday at Pembroke Middle.
Anything else? Got a motion by Henry, a second by Randy to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passed.